we're actually heading towards the transition into the recovery. So at the moment, there's a lot of work being done by the councils around developing their recovery structures at a local level and at a regional level, and we're actually preparing what we call a transition to recovery report and transitioning some of those outstanding response tasks across to the recovery organisation.
So that's from the initial response phase of things?
Yeah, so look, the sort of things we're talking about is at the moment we're supporting all those isolated communities, and that needs to be continued on, and that has to be seamless transition into the recovery.
Okay, and all the unaccounted people have been accounted for, so there's nothing more to do on that front?
Well, that's the police, as you know, and as far as I'm aware, the last police report, that was the case.
Yeah. So what is your focus now at this moment? What are you doing?
Yeah, so there's two things. The first is we've developed our 0800 number, so making sure that continues to provide the support to individual people. And that means the more complex cases around welfare that are coming up, going to the right central government agencies and health agencies so that people get the support that they need. The other one is around the support to these isolated communities. So we've got about 28 isolated communities that we're dealing with directly. There's a number of what we call hubs within each of those communities. Supplies get dropped off and then get distributed. So we're continuing to work on that. And then, as I mentioned, the third thing is that transition into the long-term recovery. And look, the recovery for Hawke's Bay is going to go on for many, many months, if not well over a year.
So what communities are isolated, and what do you mean by isolated?
Sure. So primarily isolated community is a community that has no way of being able to get into town to get vital supplies, things like food and the such like medicine. So that is our definition of isolation. It generally means they're isolated by road. And so we need to either use the Army in terms of its four-wheel drive vehicles, trucks to get in there, or we use helicopters to drop off supplies.
And which are some of the most affected areas, would you say?
Well, we've been dealing with that Risington, Puketitri area, but also the Tutera area, and some parts of Wairoa as well, Wairoa district.
Okay, and there have been some communities who have come up with some fairly innovative ways of, rubber ducks and things like that, getting across and that. Are you involved in that at all?
Look, a lot of those things are community initiatives, and that's great, because that's what communities should do. Obviously, we're concerned about safety and making sure that we are able to provide them with some advice around things like river levels when we have rain and those sorts of things. So, we are supporting those sorts of initiatives, but generally those are community-led.
Yeah. And talking about danger and that, has the danger passed? Are there any people still in peril? What sort of things should people watch out for, apart from what you've just said?
Yeah, I mean, I think the issue for Hawke's Bay at the moment is that given the damage to our river systems, when we have rain, we need to be really careful. And so the regional council, we work with the regional council on that, obviously. The regional council has lowered its trigger levels for notifying us that the river levels are rising. And then we've got stop bank issues which are being worked on, but that will take a bit of time. So that is really our biggest concern in terms of safety. We're lucky we've got a nice period of fine weather, and that's going to continue into next week apparently. So that will be good for the ongoing recovery and clean up. But that's our primary concern at the moment.